Well, welcome to Dread Central. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. We've got John Andrew Black and Newton Stewart. Would you guys be able to introduce yourselves to the Dread Central audience? And John, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Hello. And I go by, it's to make it even more confusing. I go by my middle name, Andy. So I'll just say hello from Andy. And thanks for having us. I'm Andy. I'm one of the Newton brothers.
I'm Taylor, and yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, thanks a lot.
here. Honest, I'm like a really big fan, so I'm really thrilled to get to meet you guys. This is very cool. How familiar were both of you with the whole franchise of Five Nights at Freddy's before starting to on the film? Andy, I'll start with you.
We knew of it, but we weren't I can't say that we were involved in playing the game prior to getting involved. But we did know a lot about it. And yeah, and it was pretty exciting to like go in and screen it that first day. We went over to Blumhouse and Taylor and I sat down in a theater by ourselves and watched it. It was pretty exciting.
Like, what was your impression of Five Nights at Freddy's before you got this opportunity?
We knew about the world. We knew how, how the fans were very into the sort of lore of the story. Um, but aside from that, we didn't know a lot of the details. Now, now we know a lot because I think something that has crept up on Taylor and I as being sort of fun part composing is the sort of the pre-score we get into and the research on projects when we get involved, whether we're super familiar with the project or not familiar at all. We like to really dive in and go nuts. Like start with the basic Wikipedia, but then like we're big fans of like diving into YouTube and watching interviews and listen to people talk. And that's where we really started getting really, excited about the enthusiasm that everyone had around the property. And then we started getting into the property and talking to friends of ours who were into the property. Um, and it's like finding a band that you've known of for a long time, and you then become a fan of the band. Does that make sense? You have those like projects where you're like, oh, of course I like Pink Floyd's been around for a while, but I didn't come into them until I was later in life or whatever. It doesn't have to be Pink Floyd.
Personal narrative starts a little later, but
Yeah.
Taylor, were you shocked by the level of success of this film? Were you expecting the response to be
I knew it would be a very successful film in the terms of the fan base.
yeah?
I did obviously we didn't know how it would be received, and but the fan base is anytime you get a fan base that's so passionate and so excited about something, they've waited a long time, and that gave me a great sense of hope that it would be like received well in terms of just for what it was. But I don't think any of us knew it would be as successful as it was. We just went into it, trying to make it as best as we could.
Mhm. What have the fans been like to engage with? Like, are they finding you, or are they like interacting with you online? What are they like? Because I know that they're fairly, rabid.
Yeah, they're. I mean, the fans are amazing. They are. Some of them are very aggressive. Some of them are excited. Some of it's a whole collage of different different things as one could imagine. But I think overall, they're just super excited to be a part of that world and want to just whether it's through illustrations or music or little short videos. We've seen tons of these. I think it's always anytime anyone is taking part or joining in a project you're on, it's always super humbling to want to be connected to the audience in that way. We're anyone is lucky to be work on an IP or a project that has that sort of fan base. So we were very happy with working with the fans and sort of their responses.
Andy, what were some of the influences for this film? I mean, the score is very fun, but it's also very scary, and I'm wondering, like, what were you guys pulling from?
We kind of, I mean, it's great that the fun was captured because I know that was something that we all talked about all the, you know, the filmmakers, ourselves, just being in the studio. We wanted the score to be fun, but we knew it had to have, you know, a dark side to it. And that was tricky because we didn't it, it's dark, but it's also dark in a way that's fun too. And I think that was the sort of fine line that we were sort of like riding at all times. Like, is this being just just like just scary, which is not necessarily right, or is this too dramatic, or is this too saccharine? And it was a lot of like trying to not be those things and stay within, and really just come back to like what would, you know, what would we want to experience within this lore and within this story. And it was tricky. Like, you know, we got the collector involved in the UK at one point. And that was not an easy feat because of the timing of this. So getting up there and getting the choir recorded was tricky, but it was very helpful in sort of like creating the tone of a lot of the score, from the main titles to like creepy, weird, you know, vocals that are happening and some disturbing nightmare scenes. So that was a lot of fun.
One of my favorite scores ever is for this old video game called Alice, and they use a bunch of like broken kids' toys and non-traditional sort of instruments. Did you guys do anything like that with this?
I think we talked about really sort of honing in on what the film is and the story, and of course the lore and the back history, and obviously that accompanies a lot of things with kids and stuff, and we used we warped bells and did all kinds of crazy things with choirs, and we started actually probably did a lot of experiments with that kind of stuff in the beginning, and then we sort of shifted basis of after working with the director and going back and forth with some ideas. But we did do a lot of kids' toys in the beginning, and the choir, and there's something that's very creepy and innocent. When you use children's voices in a certain way, you can get some really some creepy stuff.
Really evocative. On the score you guys did for House of Usher, you got to sort of put your stamp on a song. I think it was Wicked Game. I was wondering, was there ever a conversation about doing something similar with Five Nights at Freddy's? Was there ever an idea to sort of do a cover or an original song with you guys?
Yeah, we talked. I mean, one thing, keep in mind, we came into Freddy's pretty late on the chain. We scored the whole movie in what, Andy, like 25, 30 days or something?
Yeah, it was like a month basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So we came in pretty late. So we didn't have a ton of time, but we definitely, we came up with some children's sort of songs, nursery rhymes, stuff like that. And some of it did contain lyrical elements. And that's sort of where that started. We didn't end up going to full-fledged songs because it wasn't being requested of us to do that. But we love stuff like that, and it maybe in the future something like we can do more of that. But but whenever opportunity allows, we always are like, we love, we come from a background of working with a lot of music and songs, so it's always fun to do that.
Yeah. Besides Five Nights at Freddy's, what is the score that fans approach you guys about the most? Maybe Andy, I'll start with you.
Oh, Taylor's better with it. He follows like the nerdy on our end, so he might have a better sense of this. Yeah.
Fans. I mean, I would say, for the it's hard to say. I would say everything from Haunting of Hill House, we get stopped a lot for that. And then Freddy was, I would definitely say that we got a lot, especially around Halloween and months after that, we were just getting constantly hit up about Freddy's. So that was definitely one. And then of course now X-Men 97 was just released today. So we're getting a lot of X-Men people asking us questions and stuff. So it's sort of a mix. It just sort of depends on the season and like obviously darker stuff and Halloween, but yeah, it's sort of a mix.
Cool. Um, what are you guys listening to right now? Like outside of work, what are you playing a lot? And I'll start with you, Andy.
Um, I've been strangely on a I kind of rotate between a lot of things, but right now I'm on a Mahler kick. Like, um, and I don't know why, and I often like go in and out of, and I don't just listen to classical. I listen to a lot of kind of a wide range of things, but right now that's sort of where I'm at, in a big way over the last like 3 weeks.
Okay.
How about you, Taylor?
I mean, it's so wild, my listening. It's like not even, there's no logic or even rhyme or reason to it. Depends on like, yeah. Um, at the gym, it's Deftones. And, then maybe some Sting, throughout the house. And then some Chopin, it just depends on, it's just all over the place. there's no logic.
And my last question for both of you guys today is growing up, and it doesn't have to be a horror movie necessarily. What was a movie or TV show or even commercial that like really freaked you out, that like really messed you up the most growing up? And you can think about it if you need to. But
TV show or commercial?
Yeah,
like no film?
A movie. It can be literally anything. It looks like Andy might know.
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure because this was like a big part of several months of my life was Aliens. The first time I saw Aliens, at the time I strangely had a paper route, so I'd have a lot of time in the morning to then I spent that time then reading comics and watching films, but there weren't a lot of films because you couldn't just pull it up and watch it. So I had a VHS copy of Aliens, and I would watch. At first, it was terrifying to me, but as I watched it more and more, I became just enthralled with it. It's still to this day one of my favorite films.
Did you see that the trailer for the new Alien literally just dropped?
So I haven't seen it yet, but because like everyone in my life knows how much I love that property, I've received probably 20 text messages this morning.
Nice.
It came out like a couple hours ago, right?
Just now, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to watch it right after we get off here.
Okay. And yeah, what about you, Taylor?
Oh man, so many things. As a kid, there were two movies that kind of got to me. One was this movie called The Mask with Eric Stoltz and Cher. And then another movie that I was not allowed to see, forbidden to see, but I snuck in and saw it with a friend, which was The Fly.
Ooh, that'll do it.
Yeah. And so my mom was like, hey, I was like, hey, can I see this? And she's like, there's no chance. She went to go watch it. Yeah. And she was like, there's no chance you can see this. And so when I finally watched it, I had nightmares. I mean, probably for weeks about that movie.
Could you tell her?
I told her later. Yeah. I mean, I didn't tell her then, but she, my mom was smart. She probably knew that I was thinking to see that, some horrible film. But yeah, it was just sort of the way that portrayed, and there was so much sadness to it all too. It felt very, especially then, I felt very real. Like this guy, he's becoming a fly,
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for chatting with me today, guys. This was really great. And congrats on all the projects.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, Josh, real quick, what about you? What about you for a film or a TV show?
Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Okay, do you guys remember Nurse Betty? It was like a comedy from the year 2000.
Yes. Yeah.
There, for some reason, is like an extremely realistic scalping scene in the middle of that movie. I remember why. Yeah, and I spoke to the director of it a couple of years ago, and I got to tell him about it, and he was like, "Geez, Christ." Yeah, so Nurse Betty is really what did it for me.
Wow. What did he say? He was like probably honored.
He wasn't. He was like, yeah, I think he knew how violent that movie was, and was probably not happy with how it was being marketed as like a Renee Zellweger comedy. So I think he knew, but I was surprised. And now I cannot deal with scalpings in movies. Like it's one of my like no fly zones.
Man. Yeah, I have that thing with like movies with like burn victims. I don't know why it gets me.
Well, I know because that's
Oh yeah.
terrifying.
Wait, are you guys watching Shogun? I don't mean to get off the rails. We can end
No, I hear it's so good though.
Holy cow! Talk about some wild death. Oh boy. Yeah.
Give me an example.
Oh, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so at one point, they figured out how to be accurate with a cannon, and one of the younger characters in the show decides to basically like derail a situation and shoots people with a cannon, and they are being direct hit with cannonballs, and you're seeing the carnage.
Oh God, I love that. That's great.
So intense. Even me, like I have a pretty thick stomach, and I was like, oh.
I like that. I like a standout nasty moment. The last one that actually really got me was something you guys worked on, was the fucking orgy in the House of Usher.
Oh yeah.
That was
fuck.
that was dark.
Oh yeah.
We had the same response when we watched it.
What do they call it? The cuddle puddle? I love that.
Yeah. The cuddle puddle. Yeah, we had that. We worked on that 9 Inch Nails remix that's playing when the sprinklers turn on. It just so we had to watch it over and over again.
God.
It's brutal.
Wow, that's hilarious. Okay. Well, thanks again. This was
I think on that note,
fun.
no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
There she is.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks,
Yeah,
Lizzie.
thanks guys. Nice
Thanks,
meeting
Lizzie.
you.